o'clock, and I'd like to open the April 30th school committee meeting. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The town of Littleton began conducting remote participation Zoom meetings pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 19th, 2020. Since that time, unanticipated legal concerns relating to the open meeting law have been brought to our attention by the town clerk. Those concerns were supported by the Attorney General's office and confirmed by town council. One concern is that the chat function allows a parallel text conversation to a board's public meeting. Chat is essentially a running commentary that is occurring but is not moderated or followed by the chair. All participants and listeners may not be aware of comments being made because some meeting participants join by phone and do not see these conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents within the chat room which are not incorporated into the public record. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes, which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating in discussion and sharing information during a public meeting, and will ensure that all listeners and participants have equal access to this meeting. People that join the Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you called in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute your phone. So that the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion, we ask people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noises do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate in the meeting, please use the raise your hand function available on Zoom, or if you called in by phone, dial *9, which will activate the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the chair of the raised hands, and the chair will determine whether and when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute, then state their name and address. After speaking, we request the participant return their microphone back to mute. And with that, we will begin the meeting. On our agenda tonight, this is our public budget hearing, so that will take up most of the agenda. We do have a couple of other items on there. We will start with the consent agenda, the minutes from March 5th, 2019, and oath to bills and payroll.
Daryl Baker, I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
Second.
A motion is made and seconded by Jen Wilson. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Before we take a vote, I will remind us all that all votes tonight will be roll call votes. When I call your name, please restate your name and then state yes or no in terms of whether or not you accept or reject the motion. So I'll start with a roll call vote. Jen?
Aye. Jen Wilson. Aye. Yes. Sorry.
Matt?
Matt Hunt, yes.
Daryl?
Daryl Baker, yes.
Mike Fontanella, I vote yes as well. All right, thank you. Before we dive into the budget presentation, I would like to give Superintendent Clenchy a moment to give us a quick update on how things are going in the district as we continue to deal with this COVID crisis and being out of the buildings. Superintendent Clenchy.
All right, thank you, Mike. We actually started phase 4 of our remote learning plan. It's been 2 weeks already. We're very pleased with how remote learning is going. Last Friday night, we received an update on guidelines for remote learning. The commissioner has identified prerequisite standards. So what we've been doing this week is meeting with teachers to take a look at those standards and see how many have been covered and come up with a plan as to how we're going to cover those prerequisite standards prior to the end of the year. Each phase, we took the necessary time to collaborate with staff and make sure that they were ready to reinvent how they teach, so to speak. I'd really like to commend our staff for coming to the table and working hard to make this happen. We're very fortunate in this district to have the technology that we needed to make this happen. And since we've had this technology for a number of years, our teachers are very proficient in using mediums that are conducive to remote learning. So having said that, I mean, there's certainly been some trials and tribulations, and we've managed to take care of any issues that we've determined during the process. I'm sure there'll be more as we continue on, but we're committed to continue to have flexibility as a key tenet to our remote learning plan. And at this time, I'd also like to thank our students and our families for coming to the table with us. I know it's a huge commitment on parents' part to help out with remote learning. We're going to start some outreach from each school to the parent community and have conversations in regard to technology use, flexible scheduling, et cetera, and also answer and have conversations about any concerns that they may come across. When we embarked upon this journey, we didn't imagine that we were going to be doing this for the rest of the school year. So having said that, we've done a tremendous job in making this work. Our participation rates are very high in all of our classrooms. So as a superintendent, I'm very pleased at what I've been seeing. I'm looking forward to continuing to get better at remote learning as time goes on.
All right. I'd also like to ask Steve Mark to chime in with an update on our cafeteria staff is working to provide some meals to the community. Steve?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'd just like to publicly thank Joan Overcash and the entire food service staff from the Littleton schools. They're coming in, working hard, making meals. This week alone, on both days, we served over 100 families, as well as 12 or 13, I don't remember the exact number, of senior meals that we provided. So remember, when we serve 100 families, we provide meals for multiple days. So on Thursday, they made over 500 meals to hand out to people because they make meals for multiple days. So that's a lot of work. So I just like to publicly thank them. They're coming in and working hard and making those meals available. And just remind the public as well that if you need food assistance, there's help available at the high school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. No questions asked between 9 and 11. Come up and you can get meals and food assistance. So thank you to the staff and thank you to John Overcash for his leadership. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It's a terrific effort. There are two sections in our meeting for input from interested citizens, one now and one towards the end of the meeting. At this point, if there are any interested citizens who'd like to make any comments to the school committee, please use the raise your hand function. We have Dorothy Malone, our administrative assistant, who's kind of monitoring this meeting and emceeing it. Dorothy, do we have any interested citizens asking to be recognized?
No, we don't, Mike.
Okay. All right, then we will go into our public budget hearing. This is mandated by general statute that we have this public hearing in preparation for town meeting. It's been delayed a couple times. I thought when we got started with the budget process that this was going to be one of the easiest, if not the easiest budget I had gone through in 14 years, famous last words. It is now clearly one of the most difficult and it's ongoing, but we are mandated to have this public budget hearing. So we're going to do the best we can with the information that we have in preparation for going to town meeting in June. I would like to start. Steve, can you go ahead and bring up the presentation?
It should be up. I shared my screen, so you should see it.
I see the agenda.
When you share the screen, you actually have to select which program you want to share.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
I'll try it again. Let me do it again.
All right. We had it up earlier. There we go.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. All right. And you
Mike,
can go
just
down
say
to
the
the,
next slide, whatever.
okay. Just go down to the next slide. Thank you. I actually would like to have Dr. Clenchy lead out the first set of slides, deal with the benefits that we received in the district from the FY20 budget. And then there's some talk about our goals for the FY21 budget and how it would impact the district. So I'll let Dr. Clenchy lead out with that. Dr. Clenchy?
Thank you, Chairman Fontanella. Good evening, everybody. The proposed budget that we're presenting this evening is designed to continue to meet our core mission, which is to foster a community of learners who strive for excellence and prepare each student to be a successful, contributing citizen within a global society. Next slide, please. There we go. Our core values, I'm using two computers at once here, and one's slower than the other. Our core values for our district and schools are respect, responsibility, integrity, and accountability. The development of a budget starts with our district strategic plan. Our strategic plan is a roadmap which is tailored to meet our key mission. It also moves us closer toward the attainment of our vision. Our strategic plan consists of 5 themes. The first theme is curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Our second theme, professional development. Third theme, culture and climate. Fourth theme, community and communication. And our 5th theme is technology. So we put together some of our accomplishments, K-5, first of all, and I'm going to go through a number of these with you this evening. Certainly it isn't all what we do, but we ensure that our strategic plan is really the direction that we need to take. So our staff and administration with their evaluation process and planning process align professional development and activities to the various 5 themes within our strategic plan. So for pre-K to 5, which includes Shaker Lane and Russell Street School, we have curriculum, assessment, instruction. Some of the major accomplishments here. At Shaker Lane, we implemented Foundations in kindergarten and grade 1. Foundations is a phonics program. We're really excited about this program. We feel, and we've already seen, that it's going to make a tremendous difference in helping our students develop reading skills that will help them or hold them in good stead as they continue to their education through our school district. We also piloted Foundations in grade 2. Next year, they will be implementing Foundations, so we'll have a K-2 program in place at the beginning of next year. We also looked into sensory floors, and Shaker Lane brought in a couple of sensory floors for students. They're enjoyed by both students and staff. Good way to take a break and get a little bit of exercise, and then they're certainly ready to get back to learning. We were very fortunate this year to combine with Andover Public Schools and bring the portal to the world. Our students in all of our schools, including Shaker Lane, were able to experience what it's like to meet people, in this case in our nation, and have conversations as if they were sitting at the kitchen table with them. We're excited about bringing this back next year, and once our teachers and students have already had a chance this year to see what it's all about, I'm so excited about the opportunities for next year as we bring it back to our district. Excuse me. We explored and implemented guided reading in grades K to 2. We continue to implement lessons from our second step SEL program at Russell Street School. We have used a book for social emotional learning called Social Emotional Learning in the Classroom. We call it the Red Book by Rebus, Brady, and Harden. We continue to use that to model strategies in our classroom so that when we're teaching, teaching various curricula, we're also modeling SEL strategies at the same time. We continue to also focus on the art and science of teaching by Marzano. And those of you that have an educational background know that Marzano has been very influential within the educational field. We continued the intervention block called Win at Russell Street School. We keep taking a look at that and tweaking it, and I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing within that program this year. And we began discussion pre-K to 5 of our math curriculum. That will be tackled next year with piloting some various resources. We have used everyday math for a number of years, and I think we're at a point now where we want to look at other resources. It's important to remember for everybody that one resource or one textbook doesn't cover an entire program. It never has and never will, but we need a primary resource, and that's what we're going to embark upon next year, pre-K to 5. Professional development, we're going to continue with talking to staff and in-servicing staff on guided reading. We brought Charity Bell in. We've used Charity Bell for a few years in our district. This year we focused on K to 5, pre-K to 5, and we focused on mindfulness. Our seminars and workshops were very interactive with our staff, and we could see firsthand that our staff were taking these strategies and implementing them into their classrooms. We also have a number of faculty-led PD sessions in each of our schools, Shaker Lane and Russell Street, visuals to facilitate language, number talks, book study, mindfulness and movement through story time and games, and improved transitions between grades 2 and 3 and grades 5 to 6. Something near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure our administrators are very concerned about this. We continue to reflect on this transition. We want to make sure that we incorporate strategies and develop relationships with our students prior to them going to the next school. We've been successful at this, but there's still room to be more creative. So that is going to continue to be a focus. I've been following our grade 6 transition this year, and I'm really pleased with what I see and the changes we made this year for them coming into grade 6. Really made a difference for how they adjusted to middle school. Culture and climate. Both schools hold monthly school-wide meetings, and they showcase student performances, presentations, and we even have some staff that do presentations with them. A couple of staff that I didn't know had a lot of musical talent, and they've had a chance to share that talent with our students. Shaker Lane hosted Schcmte for the first time, and it was a hit, and they'll continue to do that next year as well. The Stripe program was introduced at Russell Street School, and with the Stripes program came the Stripes mascot, which has been a big hit and is very visible throughout the school year. We introduced daily themes, musical minute, mindfulness, wellness, kindness, high five Fridays. And we continue to train our students and staff on ALICE safety drills. That's something that we obviously need to continue to do, and we do that every year. We also developed school reunification plans, which excuse me, are really necessary to make sure that we have the personnel and the process and procedures in place in case we have to redirect our students to another facility. We also have a great partnership with the Littleton Council on Aging, who come in and spend time with our students in K-5 or pre-K to 5 and read to them and have students also read to our seniors. It's a great opportunity for our seniors to be part of our schools, and our students thoroughly enjoy that opportunity. Community and communication, a number of activities that bring students, parents, families, and staff together. Our whole district embarked upon the Great Kindness Challenge. As you can see from our letterhead, we're a kindness district, and each school is certified as a kindness school as well. Very pleased that we were able to do that. Specific to pre-K to 5, students were making kindness rocks, and they also participated in kind coins for Mexico. The students also participated in Toys for Tots, which was a collaboration with the Marine Corps, and Shaker Lane partnered with Safe School Routes, which has been a great partnership as well. Our students also wrote letters to military service personnel during the holiday season, which was really well received. We also embarked upon a parent-teacher math book study, empowering families evenings. And we continue to communicate using various communication mediums. And we have a weekly staff update a weekly school update, more correctly, every Friday at each school. For technology, we were able to purchase a wind tunnel for Shakey's Imaginatorium. Kids are thrilled that they have a wind tunnel. We continue to offer Tech Tuesdays to our staff. This is an opportunity for our staff to learn more about technology and new technology that they can implement into their classrooms. We've continued with our hour of code. We've done that for a number of years. It's really great to see our students coding at the elementary level as well. We have been working on and actualizing our digital citizenship program. We also are using a green screen with our elementary students, and they love having an opportunity to do various activities in front of a green screen. We've also coded robots, including Ozobots, which is really cool. And to see that at an elementary level is really incredible. It's so interesting to me how quickly they catch on to coding protocols at younger grades. We continue to use Chromebooks in the classroom in both schools. Younger grades, we still use iPads, etc. They have programs that are specifically tailored to our younger students. And at Russell Street, we embarked upon online MCAS testing as well. Our middle school, some of our accomplishments under curriculum instruction and assessment. We implemented the new civics curriculum in grade 8. Special thanks to our teachers, or in this case, teacher in grade 8 that implemented the new curriculum in this area. It was also a new teacher that we hired this year. We continued programs for struggling learners, executive functioning workshops, math lab, literacy lab, academic support centers. Those have made a tremendous difference for students that are struggling, that are not on IEPs, but at times find some of the concepts hard to master. And it's made a tremendous difference at the middle school. We continue to offer opportunities for our advanced learners using virtual high school classes, which has been well received, and it gives our students, some of those students, a chance when they've mastered the curriculum in middle school to embark upon a journey with classes that are equivalent to high school classes. I'd like to see that expand, cautiously expand. We have some students that really could benefit from having greater access to high school courses, especially in their grade 8 year. So we're continuing to have conversations in that area. We've adopted a new Spanish curriculum, and we continue to take a look at our student support team and identify areas that can help us better meet the needs of all students. Professional development, MassQ is a conference that we've talked about a number of times. We have very high participation rates in all of our schools. When you go to a MassQ conference, you have a plethora of opportunities that are tech related, and I'm always amazed at how quickly the in-service or seminar or the sessions they go to are incorporated into our classrooms. So we have an immediate change in some of the things that are happening in our classrooms. To me, that's the kind of professional development that we want our teachers to continue to be involved in. Our middle school also belongs to the New England League of Middle Schools. You can see a banner as you go into the middle school. We're a showcase school. That's a prestigious recognition. Not many schools in New England have that banner raised in their schools, and we have to requalify and improve ourselves every couple of years, and we've done that for a number of years, and we continue to keep that banner forever as far as I'm concerned. We again offered PD opportunities focusing on social and emotional learning. In all of our schools, everybody knows that we really put a focus on social and emotional learning, and created opportunities for our staff to work in groups, showcase things that they're doing in their classrooms, and bringing in experts that help them tweak some of the things they're doing. And it has made a tremendous difference in all of our schools. Culture and climate. The middle school continues to tweak their advisory program. It's a very important program within any school. And we want to make sure that it's designed to meet the needs of the students on a yearly basis. And those needs at times change. So we need to be flexible as we continue to look at that advisory program. Again, they've reviewed emergency protocols as every school does. They have a fantastic Best Buddies program that I'm so proud of, and I know staff are proud of it as well. And they have embraced our CASE collaborative classroom at the middle school, and our CASE classroom students are truly part of the middle school. I'd like to say that about all of our schools. We have students from CASE in our schools, and we've done, I think, a very good job of having them become part of our school, which is really important. Again, community communication. We talk about the kindness challenge that was embraced by all of our schools. The Littleton Middle School created a one-page brochure for new families that are attending the middle school. That's been very helpful. As students get older, it's hard when students are younger, but when they hit middle school, the challenge of adjusting to a new school is certainly greater in most cases, and it's nice to provide as much support as we can so they can have an easy transition to their new school. We continue with various communication strategies as we do with each school, and we also send students every year to Neshoba Valley Technical High School, and so that our students from grade 8 going into grade 9 have an opportunity to choose whether they're going to attend Littleton High School or take classes at the tech school. Technology, we were very fortunate with the support of the school committee to implement a one-on-one Chromebook program at the middle school this spring. It's already making a huge difference, and with the reality that we're in, and we had no idea we were going to be here, it really came in handy as we're developing our remote learning plan. Also, it's important to mention at this time, we also provided a number of families in K-5, pre-K-5, with Chromebooks to assist them with remote learning in their homes. High school curriculum instruction and assessment. We continue our partnership with Middlesex, excuse me, Community College, and I've asked the high school to look at other colleges as well. We offered dual enrollment courses this year in Latin, French, Spanish, and statistics. What my dream is that we offer one dual enrollment course in every subject discipline. So we're a ways from doing that, but I would certainly like to see that sooner than later. So I've been working with the administration to see what we can do to make that happen a little more quickly. On that note, we offer VHS at the high school level. I've also asked the high school to take a look at online courses from community colleges and give our students a little more variety and selection. If they're going to take a VHS course, it makes sense to have them be able to choose a course at a college rather than just a virtual high school. So we're going to be implementing that in the fall, and I'm excited about that. The more opportunities we give our students to experience college courses, the greater chance that they will feel and integrate more easily into the college environment. And research is very clear. If students go in with a college course or two, their ability and success at finishing on time increases dramatically. So it would be nice if most of our students had a college course prior to graduating from Littleton High School. We also, second year I believe it is, implementing the state seal of biliteracy to recognize students that excel in a second language. I am really impressed with our second language programs in our district. I am just marveled by the fluency level of our students. In high school, I have a granddaughter that's in a French immersion school in pre-K, and it's really interesting for me to compare what we've done in our district and see my granddaughter starting to learn French so quickly. But again, when I look at our high school students, by the time they hit their senior year, they are, for the most part, very, very fluent in the language that they've chosen to study. So kudos to our world language teachers. They've done a fantastic job. We continue to partner with DCU to integrate a financial literacy program in economics and statistics. And we created a 5-year curriculum review cycle a while ago, and we're now ready to start again, and we've moved it to a 6-year cycle rather than a 5-year cycle. So we've already are prepared for our first year of that 6-year cycle. That is so important within a school district, to make sure that you take the time to thoughtfully reflect and review the curriculum and various subject disciplines to ensure that it's tailored to the needs of the students at that particular point in time. As we continue on with that area or that process, we're finally having companies become a little more on board and astute at the need for online curricula. As you can appreciate in today's age, teachers have the opportunity to pull from a variety of sources. all knowledge is truly at their fingertips. And that's so true of our students as well. So it's a very different teaching environment than it was 20 years ago. We've adopted new textbooks for statistics and Algebra 1. We've introduced our new AP Computer Science course, project-based learning approach, which everybody knows is something that I really like to see. I'm excited about that. And we have a great teacher, Dr. Hogan, that is at the helm of implementing this course. And we're also into the second year of biotechnology, which is another great course for our students to experience. The way I look at high school, it gives our students an opportunity to continue to build a solid foundation. And also, we want to spark an interest and have them, as I spoke before, identify what their gifts are. And so when they go to college, they're already going to have an opportunity to have a pretty good idea of what they would like to explore. So that's one of our goals that we continue to work on in ensuring our students are college and career ready. And as I continue to go down this list, for the past few years, our students that are applying for colleges have partnered with our English department, and our English department is there to advise them and give them ways of improving their writing when they're writing college entry essays. It's been really well received by our students. And it's really nice to see our ELA department working with our students, making sure that they have the support they need to put the best paper they can to the colleges, so to speak. We've obviously continued to look at programs, our electives, and focus on nutrition and wellness topics, child development courses, and we have put an increased focus on vaping as well. And we've certainly seen some benefits from doing those things. Professional development. It was exciting that this year we combined with Air Shirley and Harvard School District a few years ago, and this was the first year that we had a pre-K to 5 professional development day in November. It was fantastic. We had our own simulated TED Talks to start the day off with staff. We've really focused on bringing our staff in that are doing innovative things in our classrooms in all 3 districts. So a lot of the day is spent with teachers teaching teachers, and it's an incredible experience. We do bring some guest speakers in that have international recognition, so to speak, and that usually is the kickoff to the day. Looking forward to continuing this for many years, and if possible, it would be nice to bring 1 or 2 more districts into the fold. But we really do have a good process in place, and our curriculum directors and our curriculum councils work together in all 3 school districts. And there are so many positive spill-offs of doing this. Our teachers develop collegial relationships with staff in the other schools, and as a result, they share resources and our support, serve as a support mechanism for each other. The high school, we introduced focus groups last year, excuse me, and with that, the high school is looking at climate and culture action plans to ensure that we do whatever we can to increase student voice. It's another thing that we need to focus more on in our schools. We need to make the time to hear our students and have them engage in conversations. I attended those sessions last year, and we were ready to start them prior to what happened on March 13th. And there is so much to be gained from sitting down with students and talking about topics that are pertinent to them, both at the high school level and beyond. So that's something that we'll continue to do. And with that, I'm going to go on to the next section or section. And it's the priorities for 2020, 2021. Our primary focus in any district should be, and it is in our district, is to continue to figure out ways or find ways to meet the learning needs of all of our students. And we are committed to that. And that is a focus of conversation all year long. And its primary focus as we begin to develop a budget or make budget recommendations to the school committee from year to year. Again, as I mentioned before, we continue to assess district programming to ensure that our students, when they graduate, are career and college ready. We have placed a tremendous focus on social and emotional learning, and we all understand the benefits that emphasis has in terms of helping students cope within our school setting and beyond. There are a lot of things that students go through. We have a rigorous curriculum. There are other things that are happening in our students' lives, and it's important that we have a support mechanism so every student has at least one teacher or adult to go to that they feel comfortable talking to. With that, we were able to bring in a mental health counselor this year at the high school, and at times that counselor goes down to other schools when needed. I can't overemphasize the importance of what we have done here and the benefits that we've attained from having a mental health counselor on staff. We also strive when we develop our recommended budget to maintain current student-teacher ratios. We feel that our student-teacher ratios are conducive to a positive learning environment, and we strive to maintain those ratios. There is no perfect student-teacher ratio, but common sense has to kick in, and we know that smaller class sizes and early grades do make a tremendous difference. But the research will clearly tell you, despite that, it's more of what the teacher does in the classroom that makes a difference in terms of student learning. We continue to foster a professional learning culture that promotes growth and innovation and risk-taking. For one to continue to be better or get better at their craft, they need to take risks. We provide professional development to support actualization of our strategic plan. And I've already talked a lot about social and emotional learning. And we have been placing a focus on writing across the curriculum, which I feel and our leadership team feels is something that is really important. We need to continue to emphasize writing across the curriculum. Within the budget, every year we have to make sure that we recommend facility maintenance and repair. This year we've had to let some of that go as a result of our budget deliberations and for a good cause. With the COVID-19 and the effects it's going to have on revenue, we want to make sure that we don't stretch ourselves too thin. But I'm very pleased with what we've done over the number of years in maintaining our buildings. Our buildings are in good shape, and our middle school and high school, which are over 10 years old now, really look like they're new. And we really take a lot of pride in making sure that our schools are well maintained. One of the priorities for this budget was also to continue to transition to a tuition-free full-day kindergarten. We're getting closer. Looking forward to having that process completed. And we also are implementing the new updated Massachusetts Arts Curriculum Framework and technology initiatives. I've pretty well talked about all those at this point in time. The only thing I didn't mention is the digital citizenship program is a K-12 venture. And it's nice to have a program that extends from kindergarten through grade 12. As we all can appreciate, digital citizenship is an essential skill that our students need. So we want to make sure that they have those tools prior to them leaving our school district. And that's it. I'm going to at this time turn it back over to Chairman Fontanello.
All right, thank you, Dr. Clenchy. We're going to start with the budget process timeline. It is different than we usually see. It's been changing since we initially started putting this presentation together. We started in October, as we always do, meeting as a budget subcommittee, and the administration meets as an admin team to identify the initial budget priorities, and to the budget subcommittee works to identify what we think the potential revenue is and what we think we can handle in terms of maintaining our current staffing and service levels, and then identifying opportunity for additional staffing and services. In February, we had the initial joint board budget info summit with the rest of the boards and committees, meeting with the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, and we submitted our original budget. Subsequent discussions with the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, which we'll get into, resulted in a budget reduction of $75,000 from our original submission. Actually, hold on, Steve, you can hold on to the timeline for a minute. And then normally we'd, be done in March and moving towards a May town meeting. Instead, here we are in April, making yet another adjustment just the last week or two, working again with the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom as we deal with the COVID-19 contingency planning. And we think we got where we're all in agreement. We'll talk about that tonight. And again, driving towards that currently scheduled for June town meeting. So the next slide will show what our initial budget presentation looked like. We're familiar with this. We had a $549,000 budget for maintaining level staffing and services. And we initially identified what we had for priorities for additional staffing and services. We mentioned our commitment to tuition-free full-day kindergarten. The administration identified 3 teaching positions that are currently 0.8 that they wanted to move to full-time, and they felt like it would help to have some part-time central office staff to deal with human resources and accounts payable. The total for that was $254,000. Our total proposed increase that we submitted to the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom was a little over $800,000, or 3.8%. Subsequently, there was a deficit identified by the town director of finance between the overall town budget, including the school department's budget, and projected revenue sources, and that deficit was $298,000. Working with the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, the school department was asked to adjust our budget request by $75,000. After discussion by the school committee, it was agreed to reduce the amount for additional staffing and services by that amount by removing the request for part-time central office staff and reducing the amount for increasing the 0.8 teachers to full-time that would be supported by the appropriated budget. This reduced our overall request for an increase from $803,000 to $728,000, a little over, and reduced our request for additional staffing and services to $179,000 from the original $254,000. The total increase is then $728,410, or a 3.4% increase from last year's appropriation. Then we thought we were in good shape, but all heck broke loose. It became obvious that the COVID-19 crisis has the potential to have a significant impact on tax revenue and local aid in FY21 and very possibly in the ensuing fiscal years. The town director of finance and budget worked to come up with various scenarios for reductions in revenue and their impact on the town budget. The impacts to the school department budget range from a reduction of $135,000 to $250,000. After several meetings and much debate, it was agreed by the Board of Selectmen, FinCom, and School Committee to support a reduction of just over $966,000 to the overall town budget, with the school department budget accounting for $111,529 of that. That now means that the budget for additional staffing and services is $67,600, and the overall increase to the appropriated budget is $616,881. And is now below 3% at 2.9% of above what it was appropriated for the school department in fiscal year 2020. The next slide again just kind of breaks down the time or the flow. Our original request of $800,000 increase, adjusted down $75,000, and then down again $111,000 to our current model that we're going to show tonight in debate of $616,000, just under $617,000, slightly under 3% overall. And then you can see here that we're breaking it down between salaries and expenses. Of the close to $617,000 that we're projecting to increase the appropriated budget by, 88% of that, a total of $545,000, $1,452 will be used to support the salaries of our teachers and staff, and 12% will be directed to growth and expenses. The next slide, we now start to take a look at how this will work by cost center. This includes both the budgeted amounts from the appropriation as well as the budgeted amounts from the revolving funds, such as circuit breaker, school choice, Tiger's Den, bus fees, meal fees, all those types of things. There's some grant money in there as well. The next slide just shows this, what the overall appropriation will be in terms of percentage increases by the cost centers. The largest one, they range here roughly from a little over 2% to over 4%, except for Tiger's Den. But that cost center is a self-sustained cost center. Has nothing to do with the appropriated budget. It's the tuition that they charge, the fees they charge for that program just gets pushed right back into the services, the cost of the services they provide. And then moving to the next slide. I realigned that one. I guess I didn't. You see here, what we're looking at is the way we want to be thinking about it as we get ready later in the meeting to vote on the budget. The appropriated budget in FY20 was $21,117,881. We're working on a request for increase of the $616,881, which gets us to $21,734,000 and change. We also need to add into the appropriated budget an amount of $235,000, which had previously been under capital during the recession in 2008. As part of a strategy for dealing with that, the school department and several other town departments moved things that had traditionally been regarded as operating expenses into the capital budget. And now the town and finance administration feels it would be more appropriate from an accounting perspective to think about moving those back into the operating budget. This is a budget neutral amount. If this money wasn't being added to the operating budget, it would be held in the capital budget as it has been for the past several years. For us, it's primarily technology and curriculum that we were funding through the capital budget, and now we'll just do it through the operational budget. So the total FY 2021 school appropriated budget amount that we're modeling here is $21,969,762. You know, as we work through this process, this list of budget concerns has definitely changed. The primary concern that we have now is the potential reduction in local aid and other revenue sources due to the economic impact of COVID-19. The model that the town has agreed to work towards is projecting a 7% decrease in local aid, along with decreases in other funding sources, meal and room tax, excise tax, permitting for new building, things like that. Is over $900,000 reduction in the budget. And that's a model. It could be more, and it could be conceivably be less, but it could easily be more. So that uncertainty and the potential for the reduction in those beyond what we're modeling is obviously our primary concern. We've had a concern the last several years across all of the town budgets in can the appropriation support structural increases in the service level that we're receiving as a town in terms of schools, public safety, highway, and all the other things that the town provides. That is something that is constantly discussed between the FinCom, the Board of Selectmen, and the school committee. We were in negotiations with the LEA on a new collective bargaining agreement. We have halted that negotiation under mutual agreement for the time being, but that is something that needs to get dealt with and could have an impact on the budget. We will be talking about school choice in more detail in a few minutes, but our ability to maintain school choice seats and associated revenue as we deal with new growth in town and think about how that's going to affect enrollment in our schools is something we need to keep an eye on. We always have an eye on the increase in out-of-district placements and tuition rate increases. One of the reasons why things looked so good earlier in this process was that we were able to flatline budget the out-of-district expenses for special education, which is the first time I've seen that happen in 14 years. But it gives you an idea of how aberrational that really is, and it isn't something that we'll certainly be counting on to happen year in and year out. And it's the volatility in that particular budget item that always gives us concern. And then prior to the current, I don't know if we're meet the definition of recession quite yet. We're getting there. We'll see what impact that has on new development and housing growth. But prior to that, that is something that we were all keeping an eye on and how that would impact our operations. At this point, our current budgeted increase is just under $617,000. Of that, the projected increases to maintain level staffing and services started out at just under $550,000 or 2.6% from last year. And then we've been slowly, or I actually shouldn't say slowly, steadily whittling down what we had originally requested for additional staffing and services. There is some amount left for that, $67,600. The original request for additional staffing and services, the priorities that we had identified were to point to support the phase-in for tuition-free full-day kindergarten. We talked about increasing the 3 teachers from 0.8 to full-time. And then we had added, had thought we would like to add some part-time central office staff. For purposes of this discussion, the administration agreed that those part-time central office staff were still the lowest priority for them in terms of additional staffing and services compared to the teachers and the continued phase-in of tuition-free full-day kindergarten. But the budget subcommittee felt, based on the updated budget, that it was important tonight to discuss the remaining priorities, which total $204,729, with the $67,600 available for additional staffing and services. The balance for those priorities that remains unfunded is $137,129. And we talked about our commitment to tuition-free full-day kindergarten. The goal was, in this fiscal year, in order to keep to that plan, we supported the third year amount of $75,000, or last year to support the plan. We did the third year, the FY20 funding, through school choice. Our goal this year was to move that amount into the appropriated budget, along with the fourth year amount of another $75,000. With the current amount of only $67,600 available for additional staffing and services, those amounts cannot be supported through the appropriated budget, at least as we have it structured right now. If we are able to continue to maintain the phase-in, you can see what the tuition would be in FY21 would be down to $875 for the year. And then, if we can keep going, FY 2022 would be when we would get to tuition-free full-day kindergarten. So the question for us tonight is if we want to support the unfunded priorities through school choice, and if so, to what degree. This slide shows the projected balance in use of school choice for FY21. It also shows a sliding scale of what the impact would be of additional use of school choice funds. So we are projecting a carry forward from FY20 of just a little over $1.6 million. We estimate receipts from our current school choice enrollment for FY21 of $425,000, which gives us a starting balance of just over $2 million, almost $2.1 million. We have the annual salary offset of $250,000 that we use school choice for. And we talked about the unfunded additional staffing and services of $137,000. So potentially we'd be debating, how much of that $387,129 we think we can allocate towards school choice supporting. The scale that you see below, if we start with the $250,000 for the salary offset, you see how that affects the remaining balance. And then the last column is what percent of FY20 the FY 2021 appropriated budget, that balance would represent. Daryl has floated the idea a couple times of the school committee codifying a policy regarding what we think the right balance of school choice funds is. And one idea he had was doing that as a percentage of the appropriated budget. Now, we never formally voted on that, but Steve Mark thought it would be a good idea to at least illustrate it here. I think it is helpful. At this point, I would like to open the floor for discussion amongst the members on the budget and our thoughts on how to proceed. Does anybody want to jump in and kick it off?
Yeah, Mike, originally I was, looking at different options about the phase in of the kindergarten here. And I had a question, if you didn't mind, if I asked our business administrator about
Sure.
how we manage the fees. Do we collect the kindergarten fee in advance, or is that billed on a ongoing basis?
Yeah, so it's mostly billed monthly. We do collect a deposit when parents register their children for that program, so they collect a small deposit, 10%, I think, or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And then we bill the balance over the 10-month school year.
Okay. Because originally, when I was looking at in the earlier this year time frame, looking at what our estimated receipts were versus our projections, I had floated the idea of whether we wanted to move towards advancing the kindergarten sort of institute free full day kindergarten next year. The situation with the COVID situation and the uncertainty in the budget, I guess I'm not really going to be advocating that approach right now here, but I would like us to understand whether, I don't know if we've recovered or saved any money with the different operating model that we've had this year. If there's some way that we can either do some sort of tuition deferments or other types of support, particularly since it's hard to estimate the personal financial impact of all the families with either layoffs or reduced working hours, which impact family salaries there. So I guess I'm not necessarily proposing to pre-fund the additional 75K for next year's phase out to phase it out totally next year. But if there was other savings that we might incur during the closeout here that we could help families with deferring deferring the tuition next year.
Okay. Just for illustrative purposes, if we were to add another $75,000 to what we think we might want to do in terms of supporting the priorities that have been identified by the administration but are not supported by the appropriated budget, we're starting at, right now I have that $387,129. That would take it up to $462,129. And, the $387,129 is sort of in the middle of the scale. And then if we went to that 462,000, we'd be getting down more towards the bottom of the scale. So just for illustrative purposes, so we're all working off the same numbers.
Yeah, and I started reconsidering because I think in our original budget projections with the requested town support, we would not be quite approaching the 425 estimated FY21 receipts. So there was some margin in that number there. With the reduction in the town allocation, I'm not in favor of advocating a number that would exceed the 425. In fact, would want to make sure that we hold as much as we can in reserve in case the budget situation doesn't occur or is more drastic than the state's projecting. I think we would have the future board will have an opportunity at around fall town meeting if there was substantial budget changes there. So I guess right now I'm comfortable going to that 387,129 number and continue our phase-in plan. And I'd ask the administration to look for if there's means that we could, if we realize any savings with the some of the programs that were shut down here, that we consider using that as tuition deferments in the fall.
Okay. Matt or Jen?
I would agree with Derek. Sorry, Daryl. I would love to zero out the cost for kindergarten going forward, but I think we need to wait for some solid numbers from the state before we do anything.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just chime in here for a second.
Sure.
I just want to remind the school committee that whatever savings we might have in the budget for FY20 as a result of the shutdown, decreased utility costs, things like that. We're still working through that process. That whatever money we have left in the budget, if we don't spend it this year, that money automatically turns back to the town. So it's not like we can carry that money over into next year. There are some things we can do to help that, but I just want to remind school committee that whatever money we save in the appropriated budget this year, if we don't spend it all, and our goal is to spend it all, but if we don't spend it all, that money does get turned over to the town.
Yeah, I'm primarily referring if we are able to defer any of our existing school choice expenditures that we had planned this year.
Still there, Steve? Keeps. Okay, it looks like he's not frozen any longer either.
Oh, did my thing not come across?
No, Steve seemed to be frozen, so we didn't get the email.
I think mine froze for a while, so I'm sorry about that.
Oh.
So I'm not sure I'm hearing everybody at this point in time.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Daryl, I'm going to ask you just to make sure, because your point that you were making was directed right towards the point Stephen made previously. Can you go ahead and repeat that so we make sure Steve is on the same page we are?
Yeah, Steve, I understand that the appropriated budget, any unspent funds there return to the town. I'm just looking at, we had also authorized expenditures out of the school choice accounts for for this fiscal year. If there's savings that we can recoup in there for some of the things there, that would add to this remaining balance. That may be some discretionary usage that could be considered in the fall time frame to help with the tuition deferments. Like I said, it's difficult to anticipate the financial impact of families at this point, since there's not solid data out yet. But I do know that families are definitely being impacted by the current employment situation.
Correct, and we do monitor that, and we do make those adjustments at the end of the year when we're closing out the budget. If we can move some of those costs that we charge into the school choice account, if we can move those back into the appropriated account because of some other efficiencies in the budget, then we do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Jen.
I had two questions. Is there any, this one's for Steve again, is there any, are the expenditures definitely less so far this year? Are you getting evidence of that yet, or is it too soon to really tell?
Yeah, so we're just working through that process now, but we are noticing savings in the utility side. We're noticing utilities in the water bills because we're not watering fields as much, and the alumni field building is shut down. So we are seeing some savings in the budget this year. There are some other line items which I won't get into at this point in time until we do the analysis. But yes, there are some savings in the budget because operational costs are down. But again, that's also offset by the fact that we're losing some of those tuition revenues for the remaining part of the year, pre-K tuition, kindergarten tuition, and those tuitions, as we get them, we usually use those to pay salaries for those programs. So there's an offset, and we're working through the pluses and the minuses to try to determine what that final impact is going to be to the budget.
Yep. Okay, thank you. And then the one other question was, Mike, when you were referencing how Daryl wanted to save a percentage of the appropriated budget last year, do you know what percent we were talking about in the meeting a year ago?
I don't think that we ever really had a firm
Okay.
discussion. I think we talked in general that like a minimum amount would probably be 5%.
Okay, yeah, I
But
couldn't
it
remember.
was-
if there was-
Yeah, it was kind of at that point an academic discussion and rather than a practical discussion. But, I mean, I think as you're looking at that slide, I think that at worst case scenario, all of the scenarios that I put there, we're not below 7% of what it is of the appropriated budget, so that, based on what those very initial discussions we had, we would be well within what we were talking about.
Yeah, and,
Thank you.
and I guess, since we're right now projecting a zero increase in out-of-district costs there, if we have unexpected move-ins over the summer, it's likely to come right out of this account in order
Sure.
to cover those numbers there. So,
All right. Any other comments or discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, again, so it's Steve. So, again, because of the COVID-19 and, maybe the PPS director could chime in here or something, but, we may anticipate and we may see additional services needed for other students as a result of the COVID-19 shutdown and, things like that. So just my comment.
Okay.
the remote learning challenges for some of our students, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. But I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to anticipate.
I think what Steve's referring to is we hopefully won't be faced with this, but we could possibly require more intensive service for some students where I'm certainly not convinced we're at that point, but something to consider. I guess a question that I would appreciate some feedback on is every year we talk about school choice balance, and I know COVID-19 has created an entirely different paradigm for us, but how much is too much? Or is that even a question at this point in time in terms of our school choice funds?
Right. I mean, that's kind of the point that we were debating when we were talking about Daryl's idea of, do we set a fiscal policy about what we think the right range is to maintain in that account? Because, at some point, the point that we were making, or at least the consensus I understood it when we had that discussion, was that there is too much, that we would be kind of shortchanging ourselves if we didn't take advantage of that money. And it might necessarily mean that we just have more to spend. It might mean that working with the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen, that we're able to use what we project as the amount we want to support operations with, as a way of, looking at the whole picture for how the town funds their budget, and including the school department. And I agree with Daryl. I think that, looking at those numbers, I don't have any problem supporting the priorities that we had identified as part of the FY21 budgeting exercise, even given what's happened or what but I do think that it would be difficult to support more because of the uncertainty. We're dealing with a level of uncertainty at this point in the budget process that I don't even remember us seeing during the recession that started in 2008. As we went through those budgets, we had a pretty good idea of what the impact was going to be on our budget, on local aid, and we knew that there was money coming in from the federal government to support state and local governments. We were able to incorporate that into our budgets, and that helped us make really solid determinations about what we needed to do. It didn't make things good, but it made it us able to make solid determinations. We're not there right now. We're not able to make solid determinations. The 900,000 plus reduction that we just dealt with the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen is entirely conjectural. It's not really something that I'm putting a lot of faith in. I think it's worthwhile to consider it. I think we're doing the right thing as a community and as governing bodies to use it, but I fully expect that we will be revisiting that as we move forward. So the idea that we maintain good balances in our revolving funds, I think, is important, because we may very well be required to tap them in order to mitigate the continued impacts on the budget of what we're going through.
Yeah, at last Monday's joint meeting, and I think we have another joint meeting this coming Monday here. I mean, I'm advocating across the board in terms of helping us. We should be managing our risk. Most of this won't be clear until the fall. The state really won't have a clear assessment of the financial impact of the COVID pieces here. We won't have even on the town revenue side, I don't think they'll have a real handle on the new growth projections. This could wipe out all of those projections in terms of how long some of those, a business may be deferred before they do the buildings and other projects that they were talking about. So I agree, Kelly. I think these numbers are starting to get a little on the larger side, but there's an element of caution this year that I have with it. Hopefully, and all optimism that by fall there may be a totally, hopefully a much more rosier picture that would allow us to institute some programs that we may have to defer at this particular budget decision point. You're muted, Kelly.
Yeah, there, Daryl. So I'm clear. Is your suggestion to not reduce K tuition to zero next year?
At this time, yes. I think I'm in favor of the 387,129 listed, so that would still leave I think the tuition at 825 for next year.
Yeah, it's 875, I believe, right?
Yep.
For it. I was hoping to propose tonight to add $75,000 to that, but after consideration during the last several budget meetings that I listened to and participated with the selectmen, I'm not going to put forward that motion.
Okay. So Mike, is with the 387,129, that's with $75,000 put into reduce?
No, that would support. It would continue to support out of school choice last year's contribution to pushing down tuition for full day kindergarten, and then add in the next phase in, the next level of phase in. So it would be $150,000 of school choice funds would be directed. Well, I shouldn't say that. Sorry. So you got to go back up to Steve if you want to bring up the slide 24. So what we're looking at is the tuition-free full-day kindergarten phase-in for FY20, which was supported through school choice last year, would again be supported through well, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. What we're trying to do is find a way to fund the additional staffing and services, including the FY20 tuition-free full-day kindergarten phase-in, the FY21 tuition-free full-day kindergarten phase-in, and increasing 3 teachers from 0.8 to 1.0. That's to do those 3 things is going to require $204,729. We have identified $67,600 in additional staffing and services available through the appropriated budget, leaving a remaining balance of $137,129 that's not funded through the appropriation. So we would be doing 2 years of the tuition-free full-day kindergarten plus the 3 teachers through a combination of some $67,600 through the appropriated budget and the remaining $137,129 through school choice.
All right. Thank you. That's what I had thought. But yeah, I mean, we're in a tough position in terms of the kindergarten phase. And as we all know, we don't know what the revenue is going to be for the next few years. And the reality of the situation is we may not be able to finish the kindergarten reduction in FY22 at this point in time. We don't know that, but there's a good chance that the revenue is not going to spike back up in FY22. So just so that we're aware of that. And there's nothing we can do to change that. It's just, you know, something that was certainly unanticipated in terms of what we're dealing with COVID-19.
Yes, and however, you know, I think we've heard from the community, and I think we agreed as a committee that phasing in full day kindergarten was a priority for us. The selectmen said something at Monday's meeting that I kept myself on mute there, where they said that we had not put forth all of our priorities. And I want to make it clear, this we have heard the community. This is a priority, and we will keep putting. I recommend we keep putting this on the budget in front of them every time, and let them tell us that it's not a priority from them to fund, and then we will do what it is appropriate for the children and students of our district here to make the appropriate progress on it. But I had to hold my tongue when several comments were made during Monday's meeting about us not putting our priorities clearly in front of the selectmen. So,
I mean, Kelly, to your point, I mean, obviously the original goal was to support the continued phase-in of tuition-free full-day kindergarten by moving $150,000 into the appropriated budget for that purpose. And at that point, we could have considered completing the phase-in by supporting the last amount through school choice. Obviously, so much has changed when we were just floating that idea. And the reality of the situation is depending on how you want to, you know, look at it, we're really only, our goal was $150,000. You can, one way to look at it is we're only doing $67,600 through the appropriation. So we're supporting another $90,000 from school choice. So we're going backwards, right? Our goal was to get less funded through school choice. Now we're doing more through school choice than we wanted to. But that's just based on doing what we think we have to do in this particular moment while we try to ascertain what our position is relative to the impact of COVID-19 on the economy and the budget and tax revenue. As we move forward and get more information, that picture will become much clearer. And then we'll be able to make a determination about, are we going to be able to move it into the appropriated budget? Are we going to continue to have to support it out of school choice? Or worst case scenario, are we going to have to either halt the phase in or back up even? You know, but at that point, everything else will be on the table as well, both on the school department side and frankly on the town side. Because if we're talking about that the current modeling that we're doing, which projects a 7% decrease in local aid, is not conservative enough, if the reality is worse, then we're going to be right back where we were in 2008, 2009, where we were really struggling as a town to figure out. And frankly, we could not continue to fund the same level of service that we had been prior to the recession. I remember we had to reduce our headcount by at least 7 staff. So, you know, we'll see if we're still talking about how to fund tuition-free full-day kindergarten, and that's all we're talking about. That might not be too bad. We could easily be in a different situation where we're talking about that and a whole lot of other very unpalatable choices.
Mike, thank you for saying that, because I feel like I've been one of the biggest, advocates for the full free full day kindergarten. But right, these times are unknown. We don't know what to expect. And I think one of the best things we could do for our students is to make sure that we don't need to reduce our staff in order to fund full day kindergarten. And as much as like I have been for it and pushed for it even before I was on the committee, and it's, you know, been one of our priorities. That seems like the easier choice to make right now.
I appreciate that. And, you know, that will be the kind of discussion that, you know, conceivably, well, let me rephrase that. That is exactly the type of discussion we were having back in 2008 and 2009. It wasn't about tuition-free full-day kindergarten at that time, but there were other things where that was exactly how the discussion was framed, that we were doing everything we could to hang on to our staffing levels, because we all agree that that is the most, has the most positive impact on the delivery of curriculum and the development of our children, our students. And I don't anticipate that that'll be any different. And that wasn't a position that was held solely by the school committee. It was widely held by the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen as well. So, you know, we'll see what happens, but that very well could be the way the discussion goes along those lines. So I'm hearing some consensus for supporting up to, Steve, can you go back to the last slide?
Yeah. Go ahead.
One more. Can you go one more, Steve?
Well, one more back.
Yeah, no, one more
Slide
forward.
26.
The last slide. That's the second to last slide. Or actually, no, one more. Sorry, I'm sorry. Go towards. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm hearing some consensus to support the directing the administration to spend up to $387,129. Just again, for illustrative purposes, that would leave us with a projected balance of $1,686,171 in school choice, which is 7.75% of the FY21 appropriated budget.
And can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that includes moving. So if I back up to a couple of slides to the kindergarten slide, so that would mean reducing the tuition next year to the 875 level or to the
Correct.
0 level?
No, 875.
You said that's what I just wanted to make sure I
Yep.
understood. Yep.
875. Is there any more discussion before we prepare to entertain a motion?
Did you want to see if there was any public input before we took the motion, Mike?
Oh, that's actually a good idea, Daryl. Thank you. And I also have a sort of a conclusion that I'd like to bring forward. But yes, I would at this point like to open it up to input from interested citizens. And I will defer to our MC, Dorothy Malone, to see if anybody is asking to be heard.
I don't have any right now. Anyone? Nope.
All right, before we entertain a motion, I'd just like to conclude this discussion in some ways by acknowledging that this budget is going to remain in flex for quite a while. You know, we're required to take this vote tonight. I think if we, you know, had our choice, we would probably hold off a little bit. We had a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and FinCom last Monday. It was a long meeting. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth, but we were able to achieve some consensus. It was followed up by a memo from the town finance and budget director, echoing what we had all agreed to at that meeting. But yet we have another joint meeting posted on Monday. And as I've said, you know, the uncertainty of what we're dealing with is prominent. And in addition, as we talked about earlier, central office has only just begun the process of evaluating how the closing of the school buildings for close to a third of the school year will impact for the budget for the current fiscal year. And, you know, for all the valuable work done by the town director of finance and budget, we still won't know for sure what the impact of the COVID-19 crisis will be on the FY21 budget until July or August at the earliest. So while we need to vote on the budget tonight, I fully expect that these numbers will be revisited as we move forward through this crisis and are able to get more complete information or concrete information, and may very well require us revoting. having said that, I do want to acknowledge the work done by the school department staff as well as the town finance staff to keep the governing boards and committees informed and prepared to analyze and debate the best course forward for Littleton. We will continue to work together to mitigate the negative impacts and help Littleton get to the other side of this crisis in a position to remain a thriving community and a high achieving school district. I'm confident of that. It's just, I'm not worried about that as much as I'm worried about just dealing with the uncertainty. Even when we were in the midst of the recession, it was manageable because we had decent amounts of information that we could work with. It's right now for me, the most unsettling aspect of this is the uncertainty, not the fact that we have to deal with it, but just the uncertainty. So I fully expect that even though we're taking a vote tonight, and I appreciate the consensus that we've achieved as a group, I think the district will be well supported by it. Don't be surprised if we're revisiting it in the not too distant future. And as always, we would like to thank all of the community groups and residents that support us beyond the appropriated budget, both in terms of money and volunteerism. We couldn't do what we do by strictly relying on the appropriated budget. We need all the help we get from all of these people, and it resonates with our mission. So unless there are any other comments or discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Mike, I prepared two motions, one for the appropriated budget request and the second for authorizing use of the school choice funds.
Okay, we'll take them one at a time.
Okay. I make a motion to approve an appropriated budget request of $21,969,762.
Seconded.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded. Do I hear any further debate on that motion? Hearing none, I will call for a roll call vote. Daryl?
Daryl Baker, yes.
Matt?
Matt Hunt, yes.
Jen?
Jen Wilson, yes.
And Mike Fontanella votes yes as well. So that motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the use of school choice funds up to the amount of $387,129 to offset any other expenses necessary in the school budget.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion or debate on that motion?
Just to confirm, Kelly, are the numbers that we're quoting tracking with your expectations here? We don't have a disconnect, do we?
No, they are. It's perfect. Exactly what we're hoping would happen tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for a roll call vote. Daryl?
Daryl Baker, yes.
Matt?
Matt Hunt, yes.
Jen?
Jen Wilson, yes.
Mike Fontanella votes yes as well. So that motion carries. All right, thank you. That closes the public budget hearing portion of this meeting. We do have a couple other items of business on the agenda. Actually, one other item. Recommended school choice slots for FY21. Superintendent Clenchey, do you want to take us through this?
Sure, thank you. Steve, could you put that slide up for us, please? Thank you, Steve. Before I get started here, I just wanted to thank the school committee for their continued advocacy for the school budget. The budget that you've approved tonight allows us to continue to actualize our vision, which is very important. So thank you so much. We thought this was going to be one of our smoothest budget years that we've had, and before we knew it, we were in a whole different environment because of COVID-19. So again, thank you so much for all that you do for the children in this community and helping us ensure that we can offer the programming necessary for all students. School choice, what we tried to do, or we always do, is make sure we're cognizant of class sizes. So the proposal that we have before you this evening certainly takes that into account. We have seen at this point in time not as much pressure at the kindergarten transition level. We have 6 school choice students graduating this year, so we put 6 school choice seats in. Please remember that with the 102 projected students at this point in time, that also includes transition, which the number of students varies from year to year. But we're looking at class sizes, if that holds, at about 18 students per class. So for kindergarten, that's certainly fine. And please remember, we also have ed assistants, general ed assistants in each of those kindergarten classrooms. So when we look at our grade 2 enrollment, we have 6 teachers per grade. We could also take in another 5 students. Now, as I go on explaining or recommending these seats, please remember that there are certain grades where we're more prone to have students come into our system. And usually it's what I call a beginning or a transition grade. So grade 2, I'm not sure whether we will have 5 applicants or not. And as I keep going here, it just really, there's so many factors involved. So I do not think that in the end that all of those seats will be filled. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. If we move on to Russell Street School in grade 4, we have 115 students. So we felt comfortable opening up 6 seats there as well. The class size is still more than where we would like to be. I mean, it will be fine. When we go to our middle school, as we all know, we have a larger class size coming up through our middle school. Please remember, from grade 6 to grade 7, some of our students transition to Parker Charter. That's not taken into account because we don't have that list yet of students that have been approved. So that number will be less than it is. We still didn't feel that we wanted to open up any seats at that point in time, or at this point in time with the 128. Didn't want to take any chances. Grade 8, we have 117, which is a smaller class. We felt comfortable taking in 2 students. So there would be 2 potential seats at the middle school level. High school, you can see we have a smaller enrollment moving through the high school. And again, please remember that the 122 in grade 9 does not take into account the number of students that may choose to go to Neshoba Tech. So that's not out of there yet. I did include another table that you can look at so you kind of have an idea of the history of students choosing to go to Neshoba Tech and Parker Charter. We feel we can quite easily take in 4 school choice students in grade 9. In grade 10, 5 students. In grade 11 and 12, 6 students each. You can see those classes are getting smaller. But you can see what's coming behind, and the high school will increase again in the next few years in terms of enrollment. Total potential seats, 40. And as I said a few seconds ago, I would not anticipate that we would get close to 40 additional seats. But as we all know, as we enter a new paradigm in terms of uncertainty and revenue, the more students we can bring into our system will help lessen the impact of decreased revenue as we move forward. Questions on the recommendations?
I have one question here. Last year we had the same, I think we have a very similar discussion every year about number offered versus how many actually get used. I think maybe in the future it might be useful to have that historical perspective, because like last year you talked about a number being offered at the high school. How many were actually filled of all the slots that we offered last year at the various grade levels? If you don't have that data, you can send that to us separately.
I can't. I don't have it with me tonight, Daryl. School choice enrollment, I'm sure you're aware of this, actually fluctuates throughout the year as well. But off the top of my head, we certainly didn't fill all those seats last year, and I can't give you a percentage, but it certainly wasn't over 50%. But I can certainly send you that information all of you so that you have an opportunity. to look
Yeah,
at it.
if you could do that by grade level, because I think, again, we had a similar discussion about some of the earlier grades where we offered some seats there. That historical usage would be informative here, I think.
Sure. Thank you.
Along those lines, the comments you made about we haven't factored in students that potentially are leaving. You mentioned specifically Parker Charter and Neshoba Valley Tech, but we also recognize that students leave for other choices as well, whether it's private schools or Catholic schools or other charter schools. When I think it would be meaningful when we're evaluating our enrollment, and which we typically do in the fall and again in the spring, if we can start to track and see presented to us when we see the current snapshot, what the rate of students choosing other opportunities. And, if we know Parker Charter and Neshoba, we would know specifically what those are. But even if we had students just leave the district, now some of it might be by educational choices, some of it might be just family situations changing. I would just like to be able to see that, and it would help me be comfortable if we are able to quantify what that is. It would give us a comfort level when we're making determinations about what we think we can support in terms of school choice, but it would also inform us just in general about, where those trends are and how impactful they are on enrollment in general.
Mhm. Excuse me. I did include Parker's charter slide and Neshoba Regional.
Right, that helps.
So that's sort of the current year, but we can certainly expand that in the future.
Well, I mean, it's a good look because it basically for Parker Charter, it's 1, 2, 3, it's 6 years of data. And for Neshoba Valley Tech, it's 4 years of data. So that helps. But again, I know there are students that are leaving for other opportunities. If we can, just see, how many kids made it from grade 8 to grade 9, or, that kind of thing, it would help.
Yeah, we certainly have that data. So
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
No.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Daryl. I'll make a motion to approve the school choice seats as presented by the superintendent.
Second,
All right, it's been seconded. I will take another roll call vote. Daryl?
Daryl Baker.
Sorry,
yes.
excuse me, sorry. Is there any further discussion? I like to keep my routine. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Daryl?
Daryl Baker, yes.
Matt?
Matt Hunt, yes.
Jen?
Jen Wilson, yes.
And Mike Fontanella votes yes as well. So that motion carries. Thank you. All right. We do not have any other business on the agenda. We do not need an executive session tonight. Is there anything else, Dr. Clenchey, that you want to bring up or anybody else?
I'll have one item.
thank you.
Daryl, go ahead.
So I've worked through quite a few of the policies here. There's about maybe a dozen that I could be working with the superintendent to come to closure for, but given some of the other priorities, I think I've let the superintendent focus on those priorities there. And given the timeline here, I could probably either bring to the next meeting or the meeting after for first reading, probably about 50 or 60 policies that the superintendent and I are in concurrence are ready for presentation there. How would you like those cycled into the committee?
You are determined to go out with a flourish. I
I
appreciate
got the
that.
work done. I'm not going to just let it sit on my
3 more
computer.
years. 3 more
Well,
years, Daryl.
I'm going to defer to you. You tell me how you want to do it because you're doing it. So how do you want to finish this?
Yeah, it was mainly in terms of priority for meeting time here. I can get them probably ready for the next meeting as long as, I guess, if we don't have an extensive budget discussion that we need to have as a result of the selectmen's meeting on Monday.
Right. Well, I appreciate you bringing that forward. We'll keep that in mind and try to make that the priority for the meeting. And unless, as you said, unless something changes based on the discussion we had on the budget now that we feel like we need to revisit it as immediately as the next meeting, then we'll make the policies the priority along with anything else Dr. Clenchey wants to get on there.
Okay, great. I'll have that prepped for the next meeting then.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else? All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This will be the last roll call vote of the night. Daryl?
Daryl Baker, yes.
Matt?
Matt Hunt, yes.
Jen?
Jen Wilson, yes.
And Mike Fontanella votes yes as well. I would like to thank Dorothy Malone and Bettina Coro for supporting us in this Zoom meeting. And I would also like to thank LCTV. They've been doing yeoman's work, kind of retraining themselves and getting into a whole nother way of doing business, but they've really pulled it off. We appreciate it as a community, and we will see you all at our next meeting. Thank you. We are adjourned.